Ryan, we're back.
Registration list.
We're back in the fucking Kingdom Hearts. We're going to go to a new world. Welcome back to Pajanime 2. This is the Chain of Memories. I'm a little bit less salty than I was, partially because I finally beat that boss.
Because Kyle doesn't remember being salty.
I forgot. Yeah, Agrabah, Olympus,
like
Monstro, or Halloween
I'd say
Town.
we should go to Agrabah. Agrabah and Olympus should be the next two we do, based on what I've seen, based on...
Sounds good to me. We're going to go on a magic carpet ride. Also, Ryan, the other reason...
A whole new world.
Here's the other reason I'm not salty. You and I just had a lovely conversation. But we need to talk about this a little bit, because this is the greatest thing you've ever told me, and the world needs to know.
I'm sure the world knows, but yes.
I didn't know until you told me.
True.
But, hang on, we'll get that in a second. We're gonna let plot happen. Look, Sora, someone's in trouble. It's Aladdin!
It's our boy. He's not in trouble.
He's one step ahead of the guards.
Listen, we do not need to help. There's a bunch of little stupid faceless men
and he
surrounded by a freaking sword. A guy with a sword.
Yeah, no, Sora's got it though. He doesn't think he needs to help. He's just asking.
Fuck your sword. I got a key.
He's just like, do you mind if we help?
Yeah, well, you know what? His sword won't actually do anything because they're heartless. You need the key to
unlock
Aladdin,
the hearts of
their souls.
You pussy.
And help them all remember. Maybe our memories were locked too.
Is Aladdin gonna be like in the fight with me or? Nope.
He might show up as a random summon card though. I bet. A friend card that can sometimes drop.
Maybe. Stun impact, baby! Oh yeah, Dolan. Let's see if I can get multi-Dolan in. Yeah! Magic level 2, baby!
Nice. Oh, and you're gonna do you're gonna pull up. Slight and a fucking attack. Yeah, that he doesn't do until after running around in a circle. I guess he was waiting to find an enemy to use it.
Yep.
Interesting, so even if you use the attack card at the end of a slight like that, it waits until you find an enemy before it dumps it. It's kind of weird. I guess, well, you were targeted to that. I don't know. That was because it felt like you targeted after, right? I don't know. The timing of the cards is still something I haven't figured out, like how fast they're going. You know what I mean? And
Me
when
too,
and why. Nice. Vira counter. Oh yeah, so we wanted to tell that story.
Ryan, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
So essentially, there's a show on the air right now called Who Is America. I'm not advocating necessarily for the show. I think it's a little weird. I've never been big into Sacha Baron Cohen, but my roommate watches it, so I decided to sit down and watch a few episodes with him. On the last episode, regardless of the quality of the show, which is hit or miss, there was an interviewee that was a Christian school board advisor, and kind of part of the show is getting people of certain political viewpoints to say dumb things or contradict themselves or step on their shoes or.
It's part of what he always does with Baron Cohen, right?
Yeah,
it's just like
he makes people look retarded is kind of what he does, or stupid, if you will.
Yes.
It's one of those things where this school board guy was trying very hard. There were some jokes that were clearly just bad. Like they were just like you're trying to make him say something. Like sometimes they don't always bite, right? Sometimes they're like, well, this is clearly he's trying to make me say something. Anyway, at the beginning of the interview with this guy. To set up the premise.
Aladdin just Viggo Morgensteined his way through that fight.
Nice. He basically just sets it up as Sacha Baron Cohen does, as like I'm with you I'm with this Christian school board guy in the sense that we're going to do an interview talking about the problems that pornography has on children, right? Like that's an issue, right? Like, and that's clearly opening with that is going to get anyone of like mind to be like, okay, maybe there's a debate to be had over an issue. To do with overexposure or exposure in general of pornography to children, right? So the first thing that this Christian guy says is that he believes that there should be a masturbation registry for everyone who's ever masturbated.
I can give you that.
Again, regardless of the quality of the show, that was one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard in my life. Like, don't get me wrong, there are eunuchs and people who clearly choose abstinence. There are people who by choice, but as a general rule of thumb,
pretty much
most
that's
mammals
just
who've
everybody.
hit puberty have will it be on that registry?
Yep.
So it's kind of unneeded.
Yep.
At a certain point, you might as well just look around and okay, there you go. There's your list.
Yeah, there's your list of
You're in a
people.
room. Take a look around. You might in a room of 100 people, you might find 1 or 2 who haven't.
Well, and like,
You know?
but it also defines like, what do you define as masturbation, right? There's like that joke that's like, if you shake more than twice at the urinal, it's playing with yourself. Like, oh, I've never masturbated. Oh, but you shook 3 times. You need to get a little bit of extra pee off. Oh, that's masturbation. Like, you know, where the fuck are you gonna?
Don't get me wrong. That isn't to belittle that. Like, I'm sure there are people who have porn addictions. I'm sure there are people who have masturbation problems. Dude. Like, there's tons of stuff that are serious issues around this stuff. But like, that's just the most blunt. Well, they have a registry for other things. They want a gun registry. They want all these registries.
After 10,000 years, I'm free. It's time to conquer Earth.
Yeah. Also,
Ryan,
I think it's ridiculous that these people can't get on board with harsher gun legislation, but they're absolutely okay with a masturbation registration.
Yeah. Hey, man. That doesn't take away from our Second Amendment rights. Hang on. Fucking Genie over here. Stand back, kids. Genie the lamp coming through. Ain't
Even though
nothing I can't
realistically
make
in
right
America,
as rain.
as many people have guns as has masturbated, probably. Like, let's get real here.
Yeah. I was in favor of having a tier system. So it's you have a different like level of masturbator depending on how often you do it.
It's just one of the dumbest statements
ever. The top guy is Matthew McConaughey's character in Ryan, you want to do this one?
Gorge!
There it is.
Matthew McConaughey's character in
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, you gotta pump those numbers up.
Chest.
Yeah. Why didn't you call him in the face?
I love and hate that role. I love it because it's a very good role. I hate it because, believe it or not, that role inspired lots of people to go out and be Wall Street douchebags because they thought that's the best way to live.
I mean, this is the same people who think
some people watched that scene and thought he was a good character, and it's like, guys, he's over the idea was he's over the edge already, and Leo didn't see it. You guys picked up on that, right? No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, but these are the same people who think that, like, you know, Barney Stinson's like somebody to, like, in the early seasons of having.
And then you'll notice in the movie Leo eventually goes over the edge as well. It's a cult anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's soul sucky. Yeah, okay.
You said it better myself. But
Kingdom Hearts. We're in Agrabah.
I'm strictly limited to 3 wishes per master. An ixnay on wishing for more wishes.
Also, people, you don't need to watch that show. I don't know. I don't want to talk awful of it because I don't think it's as bad as Borat, but some people love Borat. I thought Borat was absolutely unwatchable.
Yeah, I liked it when it came out because I was a kid.
I think I was a little
edgy.
too old for it. I think I just aged out of it. I feel like that would be one of those cases if you were a year or too old to be into Austin Powers. That movie probably doesn't play at all. You're just like, oh God, why do people like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That shows our age difference. Masturbation registry. That's. Oh man.
Like I said, a breathing registry.
Yeah,
use the washroom registry. Like these are all mammal things that people do.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the rest of those are involuntary. Masturbation.
I feel like this guy skipped science. You can tell he's religious. Skip science class. But I mean, a quick Google search would tell you, you know, like every kid did when they go, "Is masturbation normal?" And then you see a million researches. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, kid.
Pretty sure monkeys even do it.
Probably. Monkeys have prostitution.
Well, yeah, but they have hands, right? I'm like lions and animals can't, but like that can. I think they lick, but you know that's more for cleanliness, I believe.
Yeah, but they probably.
It feels good. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably the occasional, like, you know, dick licking that's like, oh, this is. I can get down with this.
This conversation, anyway. Agrabah.
Oh, we got blocked.
But yeah, it's a dumb comment. But yeah, that show's weird. They try to do things like to set people up. They want to prove just how ridiculous some people are, like how far they'll go. Like there was one where he pretended to be he was a elite like Harab or like a sheik type character. Sorry, like who had connections with Syria, and he kept dropping that he's partners with like Assad, and in an interview because he wanted to see if he could buy a $300 million, $400 million yacht. So he was like trying to make, if I wanted to like bring human slaves across with me, or I wanted to do this, could I? And he wanted to prove how the guy who was selling the yacht would basically do whatever as long as you're paying, right? He's gonna agree to whatever customize. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did it work?
And how ridiculous could he get? Of course, the guy's a salesman. You think he gives a shit what you're gonna do with your thing?
I don't know. I have an
ethics
system that's like
he was ridiculous with his puns. He was like, so if I wanted to bring people. Like, I was shipping girls across, you know? Could I fit 20, 30 people to a room? And the guy's like, well, yeah, 30, 40. But, like, that's kind of the show, right? Is stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes people bite, sometimes they don't. Like, I think the idea is to prove American ignorance, but I'm going to say right here, I think one of the big problems, this is a total aside at random from Kingdom Hearts, but I think one of the problems with my takes on, like, in the old days, I used to be way more into that style of political satire type comedy, right? Like The Daily Show, Colbert. And in the later days, I've kind of leaned more towards the John Olivers, because John Oliver's still saying meaningful things. And I think we entered an era where the opposing side thought that comedy, like The Onion, was actual criticism, when it isn't. So they duplicated that, right? So they were like, well, we're just going to do our version of that, and this is political discourse. It's like, no, guys, that's meant to be a joke. Political discourse is meant, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like things have just turned into this, I'm going to be satire and dunk on you, and that's political discourse. It's like, no, that's not what, you guys ruined it.
Yeah.
You guys seriously thought, like, it's like people are like, what, you guys, The Onion can get away with this. It's like, The Onion is satire. It's not meant to be serious commentary. The fact that serious commentary sometimes hides in it does not make it serious commentary, right?
Yeah.
That's the joke. That's the bit, is that it's gotten so ridiculous that satire can hide commentary. Like, that is missing in mainstream conversation. Anyway, I think John Oliver does a better job at just turning, like, he has jokes a little bit, but he'll go on rants about serious things and lay it out the
and he's
way,
also
you know
very
what I mean?
blunt about, like, I like John Oliver a lot, because he's very blunt about, like, when, like, what his views are on something, and it's like,
yes,
it gives you, as the viewer, the ability to realize, like, is there a slant here? Like,
oh, yeah. The issue isn't necessarily the slant. I think it's just the nature of how you're presenting your opinions. Because if you're presenting your opinions, like your critical opinions, and you're not coming to it from a good faith position, like you're not coming to it from, I'm having discourse about this system or about these problems, and you're coming through it, I'm going to make jokes at your expense. If someone's ignorant, they could see that as the only way to have a conversation in the political sphere is to make jokes at someone's expense. And I feel like a lot of, you know, ignorance being a problem in the United States, I feel like that's part of the problem. Is there are people who have intentionally manipulated and, you know, ruined these systems because they've seen opportunities to, especially for clicks, right? Because, you know, hot dunks generally get way more clicks than long rants or, you know, nuanced conversation on something.
Yeah,
But again, though, right? That's not necessarily me completely negating on people who are only doing hot dunks. It's more of a commentary on people, right? Why are we attracted to that, right? Like, there's this problem.
Well, I think it's just you have to be honest
natural.
about what you're doing. We've gone in both directions before, right? Because we don't really do, like, we don't have, like, a show. It's usually just kind of like, what are we feeling at the time? But I think we're usually pretty, like, good about, where the fuck am I? Is this where I'm supposed to be, or is this back? No, okay, shit. Wrong way. Like, we're, you know, if we're having a serious moment here or conversation, like, it's usually framed that way, where it's like, okay, like, we're gonna have a thing right now, like, let's sit down and have a moment here. Whereas if we're just, like, you know, doing meme shit, it's like, you know, pretty obvious. Like, you know, to get a little more serious now, like, we opened by talking about, like, that fucking masturbation registry because we thought that was ridiculous and, like, the funniest thing that's ever existed.
But again, we note that because of the blur, like, a show like that is a perfect example of the political dividing, like, you know what I mean, or sorry, mixing with the comedy and the satire, if you will. But I'm gonna confidently say, regardless of how dumb some people look on that show isn't discourse on politics. That show is 100% comedy.
Yeah.
It's politics disguised as entertainment. Or sorry, entertainment disguised as politics,
That's
I should say, the other way. Yeah. So if someone comes to an argument and says, well, you agree with a certain viewpoint, so you think that satire is correct. No, that's satire. It is not even relevant to the conversation. The only time you would ever make it relative to the conversation is if it brings any commentary on it, but even then you're only bringing that specific bit of commentary, not the overall methods used in the satire, right? It's satire. It's comedy at the end of the day. I feel like they're like John. You were talking before about John Oliver, kind of doing a good job of really showing his viewpoints. I feel like that's a big difference between John Oliver and Jon Stewart. You know, the old Jon Stewart and Colbert's the old Colbert Show.
Well, I think those were just.
You could eventually tell that they were very left, but they were more comedy than John Oliver is. John Oliver feels like an evolution of them. They were way more
that's also
in it for the jokes,
right?
Right? Like, they were on Comedy Central. Like, again, I don't understand how some people can't. It's like too. I see some arguments like someone gets like people will get mad that a regular news outlet like a CNN or a Fox will say something really ridiculous like in line with what the Onion says, and then they'll say, well, the Onion said it. It's like it's fake. It's satire. Is that the bar
that you want to set, or do you want to be compared to CNN?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you?
Well, it's just that they also totally missed the bit. Like the Onion's joke is that real news is starting to pass as satire news, and it shouldn't, right? They're taking jabs at that by making articles that are supposed to be so ridiculous that nobody would ever print them, and then people print articles similar in ridiculous. It's like you guys missed the joke and have gone the other direction. Like this is it. But I mean, is it also the fault of the user for giving Onion so many clicks for being funny, right? Like
yeah, but also like I think that the fact that Onion's there being funny, like that's not bad. It's just
true. It's just people aren't recognizing its place in the sphere, right? They're putting it on a tier that it isn't on. Not to insult the Onion. I'm sure the Onion would recognize that it's comedy first, commentary second. Not that those don't intersect. I do think they intersect at times. I just think that it's still... The purpose is very important. It's important to remember the purpose before you leave, right? So you can take the right things from what you analyzed.
Yeah, exactly. Like... That would be like looking at like the Rick Mercer report or like this hour has 22 minutes and being like, yeah, look, this is my news. It's like no.
Yeah, this is a good point.
Yeah, like it's what.
But I mean, I think actual news outlets have started to fall into some of this too, right? Like I think even the CNNs of the world are starting to get into the dunk as news or harsh opinion as news or stir up controversy as news, and I'm just like. Guys, you guys are starting to like again. That's what's getting clicks. So people are just. CNN... I feel like the capitalism side of this is starting to ruin it. It's like it sometimes it's not about clicks. It's about facts because people need to be able to access this stuff and readily see it. Like, and if it's not there and you're worried about something else, like that's a problem.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, yes. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So like a lot of the, like the CNNs of the world were. We're doing that, and they're starting to move back in the other direction because they realize that the kind of the American, like not to get too political, but like the election kind of had a bit of a like without going like too far into sides. I think people kind of know where we stand, but this is a little bit more objective. Like they were doing a disservice to what they were trying to do in the way that they reported around the American election, right? Because the first like 3/4 of that campaign, they were never presenting Donald Trump as a serious candidate, but he got way more on-screen time than anybody else did because they were basically like, look at this joke of what he said.
Yeah.
Well, like, but he was getting so much...
Not that he didn't do some of that to himself. I'm just saying.
No, of course.
Regardless if someone does something awful, if your entire focus of your attack is to highlight that says more about you than it does about the other people.
But not even just that. But like, if you look at
self-evaluation, right? Humility is important even when you're fighting a bad enemy.
Yeah, but that's also not the point I'm getting at. I'm saying like if you took like a bar graph of like major news outlets and how much time each candidate got represented on them. Trump was like way ahead of everybody else because
on like the CNN and other places is what you're saying.
And everywhere.
Yeah,
like actual news sources. Yeah, because they were like they do a story and they're like, yeah, Bernie had some opinions, Hillary had some opinions, Rubio had some opinions. Here's 20 minutes on this dumb thing that Trump said. Can't believe this guy's running for president, right, guys? And then it's like that was every day, so it's like, oh.
So if anything, you're basically saying that the sensationalist media was attracted so much to the sensationalism that they over-focused on it.
It was irresponsible reporting.
They regardless of whether they were trying to promote it as a negative thing, like this person is a negative candidate. That eating up all the screen time eventually, it's the advertisement thing. You know how many commercials we see for products that we don't like, but we will still always remember those commercials? Exposure is key. You're right. That is it's super relevant.
Well, right, exactly. Like there are some YouTube channels that I'm absolutely certain probably do a worse job of doing what we do than what we do, who are more popular than we are. I can say that with certainty because we don't have very many, like a very big audience. But because they are controversial, right? Like if people, somebody goes in and they're like, doing like a slam piece on a channel or something, people are gonna go check that shit out afterwards.
Oh man, some of the video. I'm sure you've seen YouTube titles of videos of just the amount of destroy. I got into one the other day.
Absolutely
that I don't
got wrecked, son.
Yeah, in the titles. I mean, like they'll be like X gets wrecked by such and such, or you know what I mean? Like, and they're obviously trying to meta the thumbnails and all the
Yeah.
The SEO stuff to try, like it's become again, much like news media, it's become like this fake game of trying to out Trump, each other.
Yeah, nice,
which I don't like. Like again,
Yeah.
I feel like it's becoming more and more disconnected from the fundamental practicality of real reality. You know what I mean? Like the way things work
I don't know
and
what
interact
anyone
with each
meant
other.
with that sentence, but
Huh?
I don't know what the fuck that sentence was supposed to be, but
The fundamental practicality of actual reality. How even though some things are complicated, sometimes simple solutions are required, and even though some things are simple, sometimes complicated solutions are required.
okay, sure.
Basically, using your fundamentals to look at every problem from a practical perspective.
Okay.
And sensationalism, regardless of the intent or what it does, eventually leads to quick reactions with no thought that are basically all based on preconceptions. Which at that point, there's no practicality to that at all, right? That's just, if you like red, you see something that's blue. I like red. Obviously, I use political colors there, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That basically kills discourse. It turns every issue into into something that isn't something that you can't ever accurately discuss with those people because how, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a weird stretch of words. I agree. Stun impact, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing though. I definitely I'd say on the whole I don't think I like that show. It reminds me of a political Portlandia, except if half the people involved in the show weren't in on the bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because one of the weird things the show really I don't like that it does is it usually just it's all pre-edited, so it never gives us the reality TV style. Here's the pitch he made to them because maybe it's on camera. For why they're in this setting, right? He usually just joins in with his character, and you have to kind of presume how he arrived there. And it's like, I don't like that, because I totally get that you might have convinced these people to talk to you under these conditions, but you should show me that. I want to know how bought in they are at the beginning, right? I want to know how believable. And that's kind of been my issue with Sacha Baron Cohen, is the level of believability is always kind of on a line there for me. I like that to be less blurred, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I got you.
I use the whose line / giant bomb rule of principle, which is I'm looking for good faith that these guys are presenting themselves as kind of just themselves with maybe a little bit of a stage persona, but like a stage like wrestling to a degree, a stage persona based on just
yeah,
who they
that's
are
kind of what
they,
we go
you know
for
what I
as
mean?
well,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's definitely some fucking like playing it up at times for things, but like in essence,
There needs to be moments of earnest where you feel like that's the person and they're getting something across to you,
Yeah.
Or there doesn't, right? But either way, I need to be known that this is a bit and it's 100% staged, or there's some earnestness going on.
Yeah,
here.
like Giant Bomb's actually a pretty good example, right? Where for the most part, it's always them being themselves, with the possible exception of Dan playing himself up a little bit. But it's usually pretty obvious, right? Where he's like he's terrible at XCOM, but he goes in pretending that he's the best one. He's the fixer. It's
and that
where he flukes into things going well, and it's okay, this is fine. Actually, with their very brief Kingdom Hearts bit, where the whole bit was nobody wanted to sit through playing it with Ben, and they had to put in different pretenses for when episodes were happening, right? At first it was an episode with Brad, but Brad didn't want to do it, so Brad seems to be ducking all my calls, and he had to trick Jeff into I need you for the pre-stream, and then that was actually just the entire thing, and then Jeff's outraged that he was tricked into being on an episode that he didn't know he was on. They never came out and said that, but it was pretty obvious what they were going for.
Anyway, I kind of feel like it bleeds the line. The Sacha Cohen stuff bleeds the line in between a little too much. And there are times where I think it can sometimes work. There are jokes that work. One was he was with a that sheriff that Trump Trump
Sheriff
pardoned?
Arpaio? The guy who was, the
guy who got in trouble and then got pardoned.
Oh god, leave me alone!
He had him on, and the whole bit was he was a pretend YouTube streamer called XXXOMG XXX something, and he was unboxing these adorable little things with him and asking serious questions at the same time.
Yeah.
And trying to see how far he could go, and he was trying to clue yes, I own all these guns and all this stuff, and then the guy's like, oh, you own guns? He's like, yes, I have 43, and then he said, I'm stocking up for the inevitable race war, and he winks and looks at the looks at the camera. You know, like that's a bit liberal people, a joke they've made all the time, right? Like a joke in quotes, like,
Yeah.
you know, this is starting to look like an inevitability, right? And like normally someone's supposed to laugh and be like, "Ha, let's hope that doesn't," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this person doesn't react at all and just nods, like that's something that's going to
Yeah, of
happen.
course.
Like, whoa, bud. Like again, like that's kind of the type of thing. He's trying to look for signs that people are, you know,
Fucked.
like, again, yeah, sometimes it's not about them even reacting. It's a lack of reaction. Like, someone saying a race war should, regardless of who you are or what race you are, should, you know, generally be responded with, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that's gonna be bad for everybody.
Yeah. You guys know how war works.
Yeah,
Have
everybody
you heard that
loses.
one song? What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Indeed.
Say it again, y'all.
Some people don't believe that, but yeah.
Well, those people are dicks.
Oh yeah, he got. I believe what he got arrested for was saying that the places that they're holding refugees was already concentration camps. He was like at a public speech, and he's like, "Oh, someone like he was at like a hearing or somewhere where people were asking questions, I think, and someone said it's like so someone asked him a question about it, and he's like, well, what do you mean bad treatment? It's already like concentration camp or something to that effect." And everyone's like, "So you think of it like a concentration camp, and you don't think that's a problem?"
Yeah.
Again, right? Like some people are of the
because
opinion that if someone's bad enough, we should destroy our integrity to consequence them, which is like that's not.
Well, the American justice system bothers me because it's not about reformation; it's about revenge, right? It's not about.
The show I've talked to you about before, probably on Feature, how to make a or not how to make I did it before previously, but the most recent one, The Staircase, which I don't know if you've watched, but yes.
No, I haven't gotten around to it.
It is on the Netflix, but yes, that is another one where you basically same thing. Because as a victim you want justice, and it's easy to blur the line between justice and the moment that someone can say someone's guilty. If you want justice, it's very easy to say, well, I want to see that person get consequences because it'll give me rest. And it's like it's tough because like as a human you identify with that, because if something awful happened to you or someone you know, you would want the same thing. You would want the ability to have that release, to have, you know, to have justice be done as it will. But like, you know, I just feel like that you can tell the people who haven't listened to any good Picard speeches and the people who have.
Yeah.
You know, some of those TNG episodes where Picard really lays it down about, like, you know, some of the Federation's principles and stuff, just like, hey, you can't compromise just because awful. Like, that's just not.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't ever compromise. Just, again, practically, there has to be a good justification to compromise, with a good path to get back, right? It's like the Caesar thing, right? So again, Caesar wouldn't have been so bad if he actually gave up his power. That system could have worked if he would have, you know, actually relinquished it.
What the fuck is... Do we need the gold card? Is that my issue? Oh,
a card with the number 0.
No, that wasn't the issue.
It's a red card with the number 0 is what you needed.
I'm pretty sure
specifically there.
Oh, well. There we go.
Oh, Kyle's getting a phone call, I believe.
Oh, so I am. Yeah, we'll be back in just a moment. And we're back. Oh, fuck, I was supposed to be doing that. Yeah.
We could have another outage, though, because there's power outage going on in Kyle City.
Yeah, but...
I didn't realize UFC's coming to your town pretty soon this year.
I have what?
UFC is coming to Moncton.
Oh, is it? Cool.
Yeah. I was looking and I was like, oh, what they're doing a Moncton card. I was like, that seems like a pretty small location for them, but it's only a fight night, so it's only a TV card.
Yeah.
Maybe I was noting because it was a pay-per-view card, but I was like, man, that's a random one to take to Moncton.
Sorcerer's Way.
And yes, we're back. Sorry for all the random political talk, by the way, people. I just randomly get into that a little bit, but...
Well, we never pretended like we don't have a side. And this was something that
also, I mean, you know, sometimes it can be nauseating. Sometimes people won't use it. Some people use this type of stuff for a distraction, so, you know...
Yeah.
We don't always careen into it for too long, but we do
no,
occasionally.
But also, like, yes, while some people do use it for distraction, when you're specifically, like, anti-making a stance, that's still a stance. You're making the stance that you want to keep the status quo.
That's true.
Yeah, so, like, I don't think that it's, like... I don't think that we need to spend every waking minute trying to, like, better the world with it. Sometimes it's just nice to make dick jokes and laugh.
Well...
But, yeah, like, we definitely...
Yeah. I also think, too, that there's an argument can be made that even if it's not something you're relatively interested in... I've had this conversation with someone I know a while back, they were being critical about something that they didn't support at all, like remotely, right? Like it was just something that, like, I don't, specifically about pride stuff, right? I'm not afraid to say this person isn't like a bigot or anything. They're like, I don't understand the need to celebrate it. Like they're basically, they're victim shaming to a degree. Like, oh, sometimes they ask for it because they're celebrating something, and I'm like, just because you don't want to celebrate it doesn't mean they don't have a right to celebrate it, right?
No,
like they're two different things. No one's saying that you need to walk around and pretend that you celebrate it, but like it's just one of those things where it's like it doesn't need to bug you, like you're choosing to let it bug you.
Yeah. Well, and it's like
I kind of feel like that's kind of a similar idea with what you were just talking about there. With if you're being ignorant of politics and something, that's different than choosing a side. If you don't want to choose a side, fine. But sometimes hearing all the sides is useful, so you're not uninformed, even if you haven't chosen a side. Even if you disagree with the other side, it's just good to know all the sides, what people are saying, what people think, even if you disagree, right? Because then you can actually make informed opinions on things. Even if that informed opinion ultimately ends up being, I don't want to choose, I don't want to take. At least then you're coming to it from I have a reason, instead of just I don't want to take because I don't want to get involved in all this nonsense, right? Like that. At that point, that's, as you said, that's blank. That's just. I feel like that's dangerous ignorance, because you're basically at that point allowing someone to have the potential to manipulate you, because you're choosing to be so unknowledgeable that someone could easily be conning you and you have no idea.
Well, not only that, but you're also like. You're basically saying that like your preferences are more important than somebody else's problems, right? A good example of this is like that kneeling the NFL thing, right? How many people do you hear like, oh, why did you bring politics into my game? I just want to sit down and watch the game. And it's like, yeah, for you, sure. But if you're Colin Kaepernick and you feel like, everybody that you know is being oppressed in some sense, and the only way for you to get that message out is to protest about it, like, the fuck's wrong with doing that? Like,
yeah, I feel like we don't need to get in the
No, I just thought that was a good example.
I do feel like that's kind of more of a weird.
I'm not saying like whether you believe
some people feel entitled about their patriotism and how it's a sign, and the same thing with some people about the president, right? With not visiting, like some people get up as speaking of sports.
I'm also not saying
that's
like
another big thing.
If you don't think that if they shouldn't be allowed to do it because the NFL says so, like. There's an argument to be made there. I'll disagree with you, but there's an argument to be made there. But it's like I'm saying to people who are like, why do you have to bring this into my sports? I just want to sit down and watch the game. Like, fucking take a pill, guys.
Yeah, if someone wants to like not like the fact due to patriotism that someone's kneeling, whatever. Right? That's a lot different than them not having the right to kneel, which is what they have.
Right.
Well, that's kind of the point. Like, there shouldn't be consequences for kneeling, but fans can not like it. That's fine.
Well,
you can totally not like that he's doing this.
Sense, right? Technically, the NFL as an organization has the right to say that we're not going to allow this to happen. Again,
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm saying that I would have a problem if the NFL said they didn't allow kneeling, or if someone said that they didn't allow someone not to go visit the president if they didn't want to at the end of a sports team, right? Less so than I'd have. Well, completely less so than I'd have problems with someone who just doesn't like that because of patriotism or whatever, right? Doesn't matter if you like the president, you gotta it's an honor, you know what I mean? Like people who they respect the name of their country too much that's you know what I mean? Even if it's a president they hated, they would still like, you see that all the time, like I didn't like Obama, or I didn't like X, I still would have, because that's just the way it is.
Well, if you would have, that's awesome.
Like to me, that's just the people who those at that point, in my opinion, those people have been conned by the institution. That's my opinion on it. But those people are totally entitled to be conned by the institution. They can be caught up in the '60s idea of what it means to be in a country all they want.
Sure, but once they start saying like everyone has to think this way, that's where the problem comes in.
Yes, but I'm saying in this case, these are the people that aren't. These are just the people who are complaining. They can complain. There's nothing wrong with the criticism. Like that's the thing, right? They frame it as if the criticism is the issue, and it's like you're not allowed to have free speech. That's not the case at all. Speak all you want, but don't tell or dictate what others can do on it, unless you have just grounds to do that, right? Unless there's some sort of travesty or legal reasons, or like, you know what I mean, some sort of case that can be made that happens sometimes, right?
Yeah, sure. It's the same idea, right? Where like people will fall into that thing where they're like, well, I would have done this and I didn't like it. This is the same kind of argument that I've heard out of people when people are like, we need they want a little bit of diversity in like characters in games, right? Where it's like, well, why does the character have to be black, or why does the character have to be a woman? I'm Dutch and I don't need to have a Dutch character, and it's like, that's fucking great for you, but there's a lot of people who want to be able to play as
the anecdote there. Yeah, they're just
it's
again.
like,
And there's nothing. Again, it's weird because you don't want to respond too negatively to that person only because you're like your criticism is not necessarily like it's not that it's cool that there's whatever you don't need that, and that's fine, right?
As you said,
it's
do, and like
exactly. It's just one of those things where like it's just like this is an opinion. I feel like. Again, we've entered this. We were talking about this before with the sensationalists and how everyone dunks on everyone. Because we've entered such a reactionary world, these are opinions that people should totally have in their heads. Like this doesn't need to be shared with anybody. Like again, these are your thoughts. We just live in a world where your thoughts as a reaction to everything. People just have this compulsive instinct, share, and it's just like these don't need to be shared. These are just your private thoughts about something, right? Like I think it mostly in these instances it's because the said person's private thoughts, as you point out, they don't do nothing to further the conversation in any way or the other. You're just stating you disagree with something, right? That's literally all you're doing.
Yeah.
And then saying when someone else says I disagree with you, you're not telling me that I have a right to disagree. And it's like, what? How do you not have a right to disagree? You totally looked at that and went, I disagree with this, and reacted, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just not understanding, I guess, the practical implications that disagreeing with something and sharing that is also itself open to disagreements and criticism.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like
it's almost like if they didn't react in the first place, not have the opinion. There's a difference between reacting and having the opinion, right?
Yeah.
It's like again, this is a fruitless reaction because it leads to nothing. When are you going to recognize this?
And
it
like,
doesn't mean that you're invalid for having that reaction. It's just it doesn't need to be said.
Yeah, if you want to get
tons of good reactions are like that too, right?
Yeah,
There's
sure.
tons of reactions that normally you don't cross the street and stop and go and applaud yourself for safely crossing the street, right? It's become an activity that we've gotten accustomed to, so we don't need to react every time we do. You know, like I don't know.
And I mean, if you want to
socializing is what I'm calling that.
If you want to get your opinion out there, that's fine, but you have to open yourself up to criticism from others, right?
And if your opinion is very basic and obvious, as you know, sometimes I'll present, sometimes you can recognize that certain obvious opinions aren't adding to the discourse.
Yeah.
Like they exist out there already. You're not presenting. If you looked a little bit further into the discourse, you would see that there's already tons of people who present this opinion. So adding, again, like see, it feels like a numbers thing at that point. Maybe then these people are just adding that to the flyer to say, look how many people share this opinion. So now X needs to happen. It's like that's
well,
not how everything needs to work.
Here's a good example of that thing coming in with when you have an opinion, you're opening yourself up to criticism, right? We have had one video that has gotten decent traffic with it, right? Like the Microsoft E3 one, where we were sharing a lot of opinions because we were doing games coverage in that one, right?
Which I remember, but you know what I mean. It was one of those. There's a lot going on then.
Yeah, we did all of those in like 3 days. But I mean, what I was going to get with the aftermath, right? There were
Kyle's just grinding in the roulette room, by the way.
Well, to an extent. There was a lot of people who agreed with us. There was a lot of people who didn't in a lot of different cases, right? We opened ourselves up to the fact that we were going to have people who were going to have a problem with what we said as soon as we made that video. Now, like we do that with all of our videos, but that was like the only one that has gotten enough traction to be, relevant. Where it's like people who have no idea who we are, like felt the need to communicate with us in that regard, beyond just like a, hey, do you want to come get a like, you did this cool thing, do you want to come check out my cool thing? Which is, for the most part, where most of our comments come from. Or people that we have some sort of a, background with. Lynch or Jason.
Yeah.
People like that, right? Like, we knew as soon as we were going to make, that video, like, there were going to be people who were going to have some problems, right? We technically, with everything, like, any time we make a statement, people are either going to agree or disagree with it. When you said,
or be neutral. But yes.
Yeah, like, or be neutral, but, like, for the most part, right? Like, there's a finite number of outcomes. Not all of them are positive. And people as a group are diverse enough that it's going to be a thing. Now, like, it's not, we didn't go into that moment and be like, okay, so anybody who disagrees with us is an asshole. There were some people who had some valid criticisms, some who had some less valid criticisms, right? Where it's like, I think that this comparison between these two things is not really fleshed out. I disagree with like those statements, but they have every right to make them, and they're valid and deserve to be heard. Now, I would say that though the person who came in and started throwing like a hissy fit about how like we're like dumpster fire human beings who should be like chopped off at the knees, technically has the right to say that. I don't think that there was any value.
I don't think anyone said that.
Not literally. No, it was the chopped off at the knees was kind of hyperbole, but there was like that, like, this is horrendous amateur garbage.
Yeah,
You guys should never do this again.
They didn't say anything negative about us personally. They were just speaking to
Well,
our qualities to their opinion of our qualities of the video, or to the qualities of the video.
There was some stuff in this personally, but I wasn't
somewhat, but yeah,
I wasn't taking it personally because I'm like, oh, this is the opinion of somebody who is a dumpster fire, because like that's a right. The point I was trying to get to, I'm starting to get a little bit sidetracked, was like, if you're going to share an opinion, you have to be ready for it to be judged and criticized. Because while you have the right to your opinion, everybody has the right to criticize them. Because I've run into this like a lot, right? Where like this comes up a lot. Alex is somebody who shares like a lot of like what could be controversial opinions about like posts on Facebook, and sometimes people will disagree with her and share shit. And most of the time, I'll usually like watch things happen, but sometimes people will come in and get like real snarky, and sometimes I like picking a fight, and it's like it's not one of my better qualities, but it's definitely something that I've done where I'm like, oh, I'll get in on this shit, and then usually they'll say something that's like really opinionated, and then I'll usually point out like a logical inconsistency with something else that they've said previously or whatever, right? And then
you got a high potion now, don't you? Because it seems like your reloadables have been coming back when you use that.
Oh, that's a regular potion.
Oh, it brings cards back?
Yep.
Cool. I didn't recognize that. Anyway.
Yeah, I just learned that today because I thought it was a heal before, and it's never once healed.
Did we get another Moogle card, by the way?
I do have another Moogle card, but I'm gonna keep it until I have actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say how many Moogle points do we have? I didn't know.
I'll look here in a second. Also.
But yeah, you do like to get in on some of that. But yeah, that's
yeah, it's not one of my better qualities, but like I fucking do. Oh, 998 Moogle points. Yeah, like
but regardless of your viewpoint, generally, both sides, even if they stretch what certain facts mean, are digging from facts at some point.
Both, maybe not. Depends on the conversation. Sometimes people
both. You know what? I don't like the both sides thing. All sides is a better way to use that because both applies really too. And there's a million diverse sides on lots of different issues, right? Try to boil it down. I was talking about this earlier. That sensationalist garbage is the type that tries to boil it down to there's only two opinions on this stuff. When realistically speaking, I've seen liberals who certain healthcare issues would lean conservative and on what would be a conservative idea, you know what I mean? Not conservative, you know what I mean? Like just a tactic from the conservative playbook, if you will. It kind of like sports. Sometimes you got to use from the defensive playbook. Sometimes you got to use from the offensive playbook. Anyway, I've seen enough of diversity and all that that I do think it's a little sensationalist to just say opinions from the two sides, but
no,
you're right. I open.
But you were saying that everybody is basing it out of fact, which that part of it is.
Oh, sorry. What I mean is that there is a pool of facts that occasionally some people, if they choose to use, some of those facts will support certain arguments, some won't. But if you are ignorant to those facts and then try to make opinions on them, and someone isn't ignorant to those facts, someone isn't trying to shut you down by claiming you are ignorant to those facts and that you would do good to enlighten yourself to those facts. They're not necessarily also saying, well, once you're enlightened to these facts, you're going to agree
with me. Yeah.
That's not the point either. There's a pool that you need. Again, there's a pool of knowledge that people need to accrue. Not to have a conversation on something, but to effectively have a conversation of something. And some people just don't get that. They think that you're trying to silence them because it's like, well, I have a right to not know and think that your research, research did wrong, or you know what I mean. And there's a lot of fact denying nowadays that bugs me. And but again, it's not. I feel like it's not just one of the diverse sides thing. A lot of the diverse sides have had problems with lots of this stuff. Again, right? It's because you're mixing ideologies.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lost, so we'll probably call this episode here, and then we'll.
Yeah, this was the political episode, I guess.
Well, hang on, not necessarily. We started. Do you remember how we started the episode?
I mean, yeah, but to be fair, the show that we were.
Yeah, well, it got there, but we
were political in nature.
But we were not opening because we need to talk about the politics of this. It was this masturbation registry is hilarious, and then we got into politics.
Speaking of someone who doesn't know facts, there you go. Right? There's a thing that regardless of if you're left or right, regardless of if you're center, regardless of if you're Christian, regardless of what you believe, scientifically, the human species are mammals. So things that mammals do, we genetically do. Those are scientific facts. I refuse to believe any. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
that's
no.
not a belief thing.
Like, I agree with you, but the connotations of what you're saying I completely disagree
But you know
with.
what? Well, yes,
because
in 10 years
can...
when science unproves, or sorry, it doesn't unprove.
Not
it
that, but just like
evolves.
we can't fall back on like, well, we're mammals, so we have to give in to these impulses. That's why we rape people. It's like, no, we can do better.
No,
than mammals.
no. But you know, I'm
Yes.
well, I'm not justifying some of it.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying,
I just
in regards
if
to
we
that
left
guy's
that
stupid
hanging,
comment.
Yeah, if we left that
of-
hanging, I was worried that people were going to take what you were
Okay.
saying and run with it in the wrong direction.
In,
I know
in regards to that guy's stupid comment, I'm meaning like acknowledgement again, right? It'd be like trying to. It'd be like if you have the opinion that using the washroom is gross, it doesn't change the fact that you have to use the washroom.
Yeah.
Unless you change that, you know what I mean? Like that's just
Science.
sorry, that's just fact. Yeah, again, right?
Science,
that's kind of what we're talking about. And believing that you don't have to use the washroom is what's called dangerous ignorance. You will hurt your body. You will hurt yourself doing that. You could kill yourself.
You will die.
I'm sure people have, right? I'm pretty sure that's a thing. I'm pretty sure it's a rare disease where people are like, oh. Anyway, I had a friend. We're gonna outro this with a video game story. I had a friend who, when I was younger, when Gran Turismo 2 came out, he had that happen to him. He played it so long for like 3 or 4 days straight without using the washroom that his parents had to take him to the hospital.
Gross.
He was sick. Yeah, it was a gross story. He was like living on like he was telling me he was living on like sleeves of double stuffed Oreos and like freaking pizza pockets and like somehow not using the water. I was like, listen, I will say that's the level of addiction I would call that addiction. If you aren't even using the washroom,
oh yeah,
you're gone. You're far gone. Forget
yeah.
doing.
Dude.
I believe that most terms is as long as you're doing your daily activities like chores, cleaning, showering, eating, cooking, interacting socially with people. If you still play 6 hours or whatever of video games a day, then that's probably not an addiction.
Yeah, tell that to my grandmother. That's a story for another time.
I believe that was another that was a thing that got when the institute or whatever a medical institute identified a gaming addiction, and that was kind of their prerequisite. Is that you have to, like any addiction, you have to ignore the things that you would normally do to maintain a physical life in order for it to be generally qualified as an addiction.
We'll get into that next time because I have.
Or we won't. Maybe we won't. Who knows?
I have some things I need to share about that actually because that reminded me of a story. But we'll cover that next time.
Okay.
Oh yeah, with my grandma.
We'll see you guys all next time on Grinding Through Rechain of Memories. And it's fitting that we're going through memories of our own.
Yeah. Bringing us closer together. See you guys then.